Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of That GEEK Show, where we put you face to face in real time with the expert so you can get actionable advice from those who are doers, not simply dreamers. And today I am coming to you from Sarasota, Florida, from a meeting in the Board of Advisors. So apologies if my video comes in a little bit blurry. We're all on Wi-Fi here. Should be much better next week. But today we have such an amazing topic that everybody has top of mind. You know me to say that you should not build your home on rented properties, right? So social media, all your friends there are not your friends. All your followers on Twitter, on LinkedIn, all these social assets, they're not really an audience that you own. The only audience that you actually own is people that you have either their email list or you have their phone number. Email list is the easiest way for you to ensure that your business is successful for years to come. In fact, HubPost said that email marketing delivers 3,800% ROI. That means that for every dollar that you're spending on email, you will be getting $38 back. The thing is, we all heard the stats. We know it happens to other people and not us. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to do that with the amazing Marc, I'm going to butcher your name, Marc Mawhinney. Yeah, no.
That's good. I'll give it a thumbs up. Mawhinney.
Mawhinney. Practice it anyway. Marc Mawhinney. And Marc has been doing email for a long time. And like many of us, it was unsuccessful. And just a moment before he decided to give up, he goes like, you know what? What do I have to lose? Let me email people every day, and that has changed his entire business. So before we dive into the specifics of how you want to do that, let me invite you to come in and speak with me and Marc live, face-to-face at iamthatgeek.com. And because I'm in a room, in a show, no, you can't, because I'm in a show and I'm producing live. We might have some interruptions. Sorry. Marc, how did you become the coach of coaches?
I'm from my home office, so if anyone walks in here where I live alone, that's going to be really freaky. My background's actually in real estate, and to make a really long story short, I built up my real estate business for a decade. Everything collapsed, and I was helped back to my feet by several coaches and mentors. So 2014, when I was ready to start another business, I said, what do I want to do? I thought, wow, this coaching thing's cool because I've seen what it can do. And that's when I launched it. So early 2014, and here we are today, and I'm having a lot of fun.
That is so cool. So real estate to being coaching coaches, that's almost 180 degrees, no?
Yeah, when I started coaching, I had no niche or anything. It was the most broad-based, no focus. I said, I want to help entrepreneurs, right? Which is not good to be that general. And what I discovered going through that first year, looking at who I was working with, who I enjoyed working with, and so on, was I had two of my clients who were coaches, and I really enjoyed those calls, not to knock other clients, but what I decided at a certain point was I'm only going to work with coaches. Anyone else who comes to me, I will refer off to an appropriate business coach who can work with Joe's Widgets or whatever, and even to this day I've stuck by that. So the important lesson there is don't try to appeal to everybody. There's nothing wrong with planting your flag in the ground and saying I'm only going to work with X. There's 7.5 billion people in the world. You're not going to run out of potential clients.
That's true. And so you're moving from real estate to online. And like many of us, you're trying to start your own business online. And tell me about the early days. You're like, okay, where do I start?
Well, the best way I could put it was throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what would stick.
Yeah.
The challenge for me was in my real estate days, I always had a bunch of money because I was successful and built a big team and everything else. Anyone who's gone belly up and gone through business closures knows when you're coming out the other end that things have changed. So in 2014, when I started my coaching business, I didn't have access to that type of the resources that I had back in the real estate days, which at the time I thought was a negative, by the way. I was kind of grumbling. I had a little bit of woe is me, like, I wish I had 50,000 to throw into ads here and all this other stuff. But it actually ended up becoming a blessing because it forced me to compensate for that with organic efforts to roll up my sleeves and do things that weren't paid advertising. So I'm very grateful. It sounds funny to say it. I'm grateful that I didn't have the resources, and that allowed me to avoid the mistake that a lot of online entrepreneurs make now, is that they think, oh, okay, well, I'll take a chunk of money and just buy ads and fancy funnels and everything else, and they try to shortcut it, and they don't get that practice crafting their message and all that other stuff, which I got. So everything I teach is organic. I'm helping coaches get more clients without paid advertising, but it's because I've done it. It's not just theory or guesswork.
Which is, the best way to learn. And you're right. So many people are trying to shortcut everything, right? They just, like you're saying, throw spaghetti at the bowl and see what works. And when it doesn't, then it's kind of like, now I'm $50,000 short, no results, nobody's buying my stuff. I have a lot of people who come to me after they finished branding, and they look like $1 million, but people are not even giving them $10 for their stuff because that they're missing that relationship, right, with the audience. They don't really know where the audience is. So when you're starting out, you're like, okay, let me start from the ground, right? Roll up your sleeve and get into it. What was the first thing that you tackled? Was it email? Was it social media? Was it a website? What were you looking at?
It was, a website was part of it, but it was a crappy looking website. So not to knock my web guy who's been with me all these years. It's not Tim's fault. The problem was I had, what did they say? Champagne tastes of beer budget at that point.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I put $500 towards the website. It looked like someone threw up on the screen, but it got the job done. So I did those things, but one thing that I didn't rely on was just slapping up a website and thinking people are going to magically rush in. What I actually found was having the experience in real estate, where I started in real estate when I was 21 years old. I had no contacts, no money at coming out of university and all that. And I had to actually roll up my sleeves and work to get my real estate business going. So same thing with coaching. I wasn't under the illusion that it was a get rich quick, which unfortunately a lot of people think that. They think that you can make the 6-7 figures in 30 days working a few minutes a day. And I wasn't under that illusion. So I knew I was going to have to prime the pump. I just jumped out there and just started doing it. I didn't overthink things. So I tend to follow the entrepreneurial advice, when they say entrepreneurs jump off a cliff and hope they can build a plane before they hit the ground. Yeah. Luckily, I was able to construct something that flew, and we were all good.
But someone is like you starting out from nothing. Do you go start a Facebook group? Do you put up an email? You put up a website. Do you put up call to action? Like, what's the path that leads into the beginning of success with email marketing?
Yeah, I already touched on it. Don't overthink things. Some people try to have it all planned out perfectly before they make any offers. You're probably going to have to change your niche, your offer, and all that other stuff. So I'm all for market research, but I think that can go a little too far at times, where people use that as an excuse to not get out there. What I'm a fan of is picking, I say, 3 pillars for your business, and that would be 3 things that you focus on. Don't try to do 75 different things in the online space. So for example, with my business, my big 3, which haven't changed much really over the years, are podcasting. I have my show, Natural Born Coaches, which I started very early in my journey in 2014. So I have podcasting, my show, and going out on other shows like this. I have Facebook, especially the Facebook group, the Coaching Jungle, and then email marketing, which we're talking about today, which I did horribly wrong in the first 2 years, but then I was able to course correct with daily emails in 2016, April 2016 is when I started daily emails. So if I'm doing podcasting, the Facebook group, and daily emails, I know that I'm good. But your big three could be different. Yeah, obviously video is a big part of yours, and some other things there as well. So I say to people, don't assume that my big three or your big three. They may not be.
Yeah, so I know we're talking email, but can we just talk a little bit about podcasting? Because a lot of people think, like you were saying at the beginning, that's the gold rush, right? Like, all I have to do is start a podcast and I'm a millionaire. Right. That might have been right when John Lee Dumas started, right?
Well, it wasn't even right then. No? No. I mean, there were obvious. Well, here's a story about podcasting, which is kind of funny, though. I started my show in November of 2014. And when I started my show, the little voice in my head was telling me that I missed the boat. I'm like, oh, God, I'm too late to the party. I knew John. I was in his community and took one of his programs to start my show. And I remember thinking, oh, God, like, John's so lucky he started EO Fire, 2012? Yeah. I'm 2 years late to the party. Now you flash ahead to 2019, and people are saying that to me, like, oh, my God, Mark, well, you're lucky. You started your podcast, but I'm too late for it, right? And it's funny because they're treating me like a grizzled veteran of the podcasting world when I thought I was late to the party. And I'm sure in 2023, people will be saying those who started their show in 2019 are lucky. So, but you're right. It's not a magic money tree that goes in your backyard. I think the mistake a lot of online entrepreneurs make is they start the podcast without having a business or a compelling offer on the other end. And it doesn't matter how good your podcast is. So they're worried about the podcast, the cover art. They listen to each episode 5 times. If they want to edit, if they coughed at the 17-minute mark, 14 seconds or whatever, and they just overthink stupid stuff. And then if I said to them, well, who do you help and what's your offer? How do you help them? It'd be like a deer caught in the headlights. They don't know. So you have to have that worked out because your podcast is a vehicle to send people to your offer or to grow your list, but you need to have that stuff in the back end.
Which is the same for email marketing, right? Like if you just write an email for the sake of writing emails, then of course you're not going to convert. But if you know the end line, like the end result, what do you want people to do, then you have an entire strategy behind that. And is that something that you're teaching in your, is it 10 weeks? 10-week course?
Well, I have a program, my flagship one's called 10 Clients in 90 Days. Yes. So that one is where I basically created the program I wish I had back when I started in early 2014. I have a separate email program which is called the Daily Email System, and that goes all through the email stuff with it. But email, obviously, I'm a big fan of, so that's why I have that program. And there's an example of feeding the starving crowd. I was getting asked by people saying, daily emails, how do you do daily emails and all this stuff? That's why I created the program.
And you know what's interesting about that? Guys, if you're interested in figuring out how to do daily emails that actually convert, thatgeek.com/live, right to the right of this video, you'll see a little graphic. If you can click on that, you'll be taken away. You can see exactly what's in the daily emails. The main thing that, a lot of people probably watching this thinking, how often should I email? And most people think twice a week, right? You're going like, no, twice a week, you're not going to get much of it. And you were doing 365 emails a year?
Technically more than that. I'm doing daily emails, but some days I'm doing multiple days. I've done as many as 7 in a day, which is, I know, it seems like a lot. That's at the tail end of a promotion. But in reality, it's at least 1 a day. Sometimes it could be 2 or 3. But every day, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time, just like the sun coming up, the email goes out. And I haven't missed a day since I started. I think it was April 11th, 2016. Wow. So we're up over, 1,100 days or something like that.
What's amazing about that is just, a lot of people feel very stuck when they're looking at a white screen, right? And they're like, what should I write? Where do I start from, right? And I'm not a copywriter. I don't have any ideas. I don't want to be over salesy. Am I annoying my list? How do you take people through a process of like, okay, let's get all the daily emails in?
Yeah.
And be human.
well, you touch on a good point because there's a mindset component before you start doing daily emails. And what that mindset part is, it's the foundation. You have to get away from the fear of losing subscribers. That's what holds a lot of people back. I had that thought, back when I started, am I going to lose people? It's better to have a smaller list with daily emails where you have a stronger relationship as opposed to a bigger list that you only message them once in a while. I heard someone once said that most email marketers treat their lists like a booty call. They only message them when they want something. So it's just like a guy texting a girl Sunday morning at 1 a.m. or something. You know what it's for. That's what they're like with their list. They're also afraid of their list. And I've gotten this question a number of times from an online entrepreneur who sheepishly asked me, Mark, I have a list. I haven't emailed them in the last 6 months. What should I say? And they've sent me examples of their email to their list, and they're groveling. They're like on their hands and knees as if they killed one of the subscribers' family members or their dog. Like, I am so sorry. I haven't been in touch with you and all this stuff. And you can't do that because right away you're telegraphing it. You're afraid of your list. But if you're going to address it, if you haven't emailed your list, it's dead. It's a cold list. What I would do is send an email and very quickly, hey, I've been MIA for the last 6 months. I'm going to do better, and then get on to business. But don't go on your hands and knees and beg or afraid. Or be afraid of offending. So the two things that I did, in addition to starting daily emails, I also took the filter off and just wrote like I talk and wasn't afraid of rocking the boat a little bit and stuff like that and being polarizing. And the good thing is my list purges itself. I don't have to ever purge my list because I chase away people who aren't the right fit for me.
So the next question is, because now we just talked about how often should you email. You say every day, even a few times a day. The next question is like, how long are the emails? Because if you're writing emails every day, they're probably, a few paragraphs. Is that right?
No, they have to be 2,000 words. No, I'm just joking.
It's like, holy crap.
No, I mean, the rule of thumb with email is there was a book that I Josh Bernoff wrote, Writing Without Bullshit. And in that book, he has an iron imperative, which refers to writing for like books and things, but it also applies to email. And that iron imperative is treat your reader's time as more valuable than your own. Meaning that your emails don't have to be a certain number of words. Mine are 200 to 300 words, roughly. They're not long emails. But if you're providing value, something that's making it worth their time to open it up and to read it, then that's what matters at the end of the day. So you could write 2,000 words of junk, which that's not good, or you could write one which is one short paragraph, couple sentences, which is gold, and it's going to help them. So look more at, okay, how can I help people? And what an important thing with emails, which I think is very important, is not to do what would be called hard teaching. Ben Settle talks about this too. Hard teaching is where you are giving them things that you really would normally give your clients or paying customers, and that's a mistake that a lot of people make. They think I have to make these valuable, and they put way too much pressure on themselves. My emails, I like to think they're entertaining. I'll tell a lesson or a story, like something quick that I want people to know that can help them. Then I transition to the call to action, and I have a link in every single email with it. But I'm not doing hard teaching. I say that for my paying clients and customers.
So the emails, what I'm hearing you say is more like nurture, build a relationship, entertain, and kind of like develop the curiosity to want to know more, and then click the link to go get some more information. Is that right?
Yeah, and when you say nurture, I'll just differentiate, because a lot of times people hear nurture, they think don't sell. I've heard the advice being given out by some quote gurus where you nurture a list for the first 50 days, you never mention that you're in business and don't sell to them. That's not good in my opinion. So I like to give them something that will help them. I'm not saying don't give value, but then it transitions. It's not an arm twisty, the internet marketing lingo, that friggin' language that everyone's sick of. It makes you throw up in your mouth when you hear it from some of these gurus. Yeah. I don't like that. So mine, if I was, perfect example, when I send an email to my list about this chat that we're having right now, the email was talking about, very meta here, it's a daily email talking about my interview about daily emails. But anyways, it told a really quick story about how I started daily emails, but then it transitioned quickly. By the way, I'll be chatting with Yifat Cohen on her show Thursday, May the 2nd. Here's the link. That's it. It's not a big production and all these PPPSs and 20 links to it. It's just that, like that.
So it's very personal and very engaging. It's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I noticed even in social media, your stories, your posts are very story-like. right? They're starting with like an experience that you went through, and then they end with a lesson, right? And the lesson is kind of like, hey, if you don't want to have this, then here's the other option.
Yeah, I mean, for content ideas, I draw a lot from things going on in my life, things going on in my client's life, as long as I'm keeping confidentiality in mind, of course. I draw from pop culture, so I love, we've talked about Avengers Endgame. We're going to give spoilers now to piss everyone off now. I was shocked that Hulk and Thanos...
nothing to spoil, man.
Yeah, Hulk and Thanos got married at the end of the movie. That was so strange. And they made it a musical, a 3-hour musical. Who would have thought?
Right.
But I'll draw from pop culture, movies I watch, books that I read, blogs, things. Facebook groups are awesome. If I'm ever in need of content ideas, I'll scroll down the wall of my group or another one, and I'll pull up something there. So the more you do this, it'll get easier. When I first started writing these daily emails, probably took me 45 minutes to do an email. Now, 15 minutes, I can get one hammered out, and it's scheduled and ready to go. But it's like going to the gym. It takes a little bit of time, but you're building up your content creation or your writing muscles.
So let's talk about automation for a little bit. I'm assuming, like, how do you write your daily emails? Do you write it at the end of the night and then you schedule it, or do you create them kind of like in a row?
I was going to say I use a computer. I batch my writing. So I'm going to ruin the magic of people thinking that I sit down a few minutes before it goes out and I'm typing away on my laptop.
But you don't wake up at 5 a.m. to send an email? Come on.
That's a lot of pressure. So for anyone who doesn't know what I mean by batching, means that you take a couple hour chunk of time and you only focus on, in this case, writing emails. So if you try to sit down, which I've had clients before do it that way, where they're good, they could do it for a week, sometimes 2 weeks, life's going to get in the way. Your kid's going to be sick. The power is going to go out unexpectedly. Something's going to happen, and bang, you miss that morning or whatever, whenever you're sending it. So I like staying at a bare minimum a week ahead, but often I can be a couple weeks ahead. Now, if something happens that's time sensitive, I can slot it in. So, for example, if there's a zombie apocalypse later today or something, and I want to have my daily email tomorrow about that, I can write something and then move some things around. But generally speaking, I like having the batching done, so that it takes pressure off. And you get on a roll, right? You finish one email, you work on another one. You're not bouncing from different activities.
So do you do it? Are you writing them all in Google Doc and then just copy paste into your email?
No, I write them all right in Aweber. Yeah, I use Aweber. I just open it up and start writing. Now, one thing I do find helps is I keep a hard copy calendar right on my desk, very old-fashioned. If anyone doesn't know, this is a pen, so you can use like a pen and paper. What I do, though, is on every day for that calendar, I have notes for what I want to slot in there. And what I find works really well, and let's say if I was sitting down now to write a week's worth of emails, I would probably have a slip of paper with each of the, like 1 or 2 lines for each of the emails, the subject line, just to know. And then that way, as I finish one email, I'm not spending time then trying to think of another one, right? I can just move on to the next one. I keep a note in my iPhone if I'm on the road, I get an idea or whatever. But what's going to happen the more that you do these daily emails, ideas will come from left field. They'll be coming all over the place, and you'll be thinking, okay, I got ideas here, and so on.
So, okay, so you're writing them all in Aweber, and when you say, so is it automated? Like, do you just set up like a little funnel automation? Hey, every day something comes, and then you just drag them?
It's just like a blog post. So you can save it as a draft. If I had an idea now, let's say you say something that stirs something up in my mind, and I think, oh, that'd make a great email next month. I would open up an Aweber email and then type a couple notes in it to jog my memory and save it as a draft. So I'm never stuck for ideas. I can go through into my email platform and look through and see ideas saved as drafts, and then bang, just go. You can even cheat. I shouldn't say this. I'm giving away my secrets, but that's the whole point of this. Once you've been doing this for a while, you can reuse an email that you use. So, for example, Halloween, a couple different Halloweens, October 31st, I've used the same email. I've never had anyone say, Mark, you used this email back Halloween in 2016 or something. But you can start doing that as time goes on. So that's why it's good to get writing now, because content you create now is going to help you next year. It'll be content that you can repackage or tweak a little bit if needed.
So you're saying that each email has a call to action, and if you're using something, do you plan your call to actions throughout the month, throughout the year?
So that calendar I was telling you about that has with the daily things, I have a little acronym at the bottom of every single box for the date. So the way that I do my promotions through the run of a month generally is I will promote something for about a week straight. I don't like bouncing from one thing to another every different days. So the first, let's say the first week of the month, I could be promoting my 10 clients in 90 days program. The second or third week of the month, I might be doing a joint venture promotion where I do a lot of joint ventures. So I'm doing that. Later in the month, the last week of the month, I'm usually doing my Secret Coach Club print newsletter. So I'm doing that for about 7 days or so on. So I know what's coming up. I know, okay, this week's going to be this, next week's going to be that, and so on. The mistake that a lot of email marketers make is that they bounce around different offers every day or every 2 days, and you're not giving enough time. I really beat people over the head with my offers. They're so sick of hearing about it after a week. They're like, oh God, Mark, you've been talking about X all week. And I've had people tell me I give up. I had to see what this was because I've been seeing it. You talk about it every day.
That's really cool. We have Joe McFields saying, commenting, he says, sorry I arrived late, but I'm enjoying it now. I'm a member of Mark's Jungle. So hi, Joe. Why don't you jump on in and actually talk with Mark face to face? Just click the link below or above the video you're watching right now, and you can join in and just have a conversation with us because we would love to hear about your experience. What you're saying, Mark, is plan, right? Everything starts with a plan. What do you want? What's the end goal? What are you promoting? What are you selling? What do you want? What do you want to be known for? And as you have that plan, then you go out and structure your emails with that plan in mind. And then next year, if you're coming around and promoting the same thing, then you're just reusing emails because you've already created a plan. You already know what's coming up. You already know what you should be talking about. Is that right? That's kind of like the process?
Yeah, that's right. I should mention something important when we talk about offers. A lot of people who, especially ones starting out, get a little bit stuck because I think, well, Mark, that's fine because you got a bunch of different things that you can bounce around from for offers, but I haven't created all this stuff. What you do in that case, even if you're promoting the same thing for your first 30 days, that's better than nothing. Now, going forward, it helps to mix up so you don't get bored and your people don't get bored, but don't overthink it. So if you were a coach, for example, that's my world, drive people to a calendar link for a call or to a one-on-one coaching page or whatever. And then you start mixing in other things like joint ventures. That could eat up a week. So maybe in the early days, you do 3 weeks of promoting your call with you or your one-on-one coaching and then a week of a joint venture. And then as you build more programs, you can mix it up a little bit more.
What happens when you have different audiences? Like you have an audience for coaching and an audience for a podcast, for example, which is the worst thing to say. But what if you have, different types of audiences? How do you manage those emails?
Well, with me, what I used to do is I used to segment my lists. So I had a list for past guests of my podcast. I had a list for podcast listeners. I had a list for all these different lists. And personally, for the most part, I group my list together and I send to everyone now because my business is very, homogenous, if that's the word, or it doesn't need 10 different lists, really. Now, you can segment and try to do that, but I think there's a danger if you're trying to guess too much. I've seen people get tripped up in this where they're like, well, should I put YFAT? Is she more this list or is she more this one? And they're overthinking it. The way that I would recommend doing it is do a blast to everyone, assuming that they all mix and match. So, for example, I've met coaches who have two niches. I met one who's a dating coach and then also a business coach, and she keeps 2 separate websites and everything else. That one might be a little different because they're 2 completely different things, but for the most part, you can group your list together, and then it's going to purge itself with daily emails. You're going to chase away the people who aren't probably ever going to buy from you, but you're going to have a stronger relationship with those who stay.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, if you have 2 different niches, you'll be writing 2 emails, an email a day for every niche. Is that right?
Well, me personally, I wouldn't have 2 different niches. I think that's, I would focus on one niche, whichever one you enjoy more and has a better chance of success. Me personally, that's how I would do it. And it's like trying to start a fire. If you're trying to start a fire and you're moving your magnifying glass around the hay, it doesn't give the sun enough opportunity to stay in one place, right? The ray, and to burn it. So that's more a business structural thing. I would say pick the niche that you want to go in and then focus all your efforts on that. What is it? Confucius say, man who chases two rabbits catches neither.
Yep, that's true. But then you have, we're talking about an audience and building relationship with your list. You have probably just listeners for your podcast, and then you have your clients who actually paid you money. And these are two different audiences that you talk to in two different ways. Do you send daily emails to your clients as well?
Yeah, so the only one that's a little bit different is my print newsletter, Secret Coach Club, has a list of those subscribers, monthly subscribers. That one's kept separately because I'll do things a little bit differently for them. But the other part, for the most part, is grouped all together. The other thing, too, is sometimes people will, let's say I'm doing multiple emails a day if I'm on the tail end of some sort of promotion for my print newsletter. I've had sometimes someone will message me and say, hey, Mark, can you take me off this list because I already bought Secret Coach Club, but I still like seeing your emails, the earlier ones in the day. My suggestion, I say, look, why don't you see how I'm handling the promotion and read those emails, even though you've already bought it, right? The other thing I should mention, which is important, is I repackage my emails. So my emails go onto my blog every day, which sounds counterproductive. I don't know if you want to get into that or not, but I recommend doing that.
No, yeah, actually, I was about to ask you because I wanted to know if you're repurposing your emails as social posts, because your social posts also look very, kind of like the same format of the email that you're saying, very storytelling.
It is email. Yeah.
It is email.
Yeah, so my daily email goes in about 5 or 6 different places. Of course, there's the email. It's on my blog as well. It goes to my Facebook group, personal Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook fan page as well. So my goal is, I say it's a casino strategy. And what I mean by that is when you win at a casino and you collect your winnings from the cage or whatever at the back, they make it as difficult as possible to escape the casino with the money in your pocket. Right. They don't put a straight line that you can walk through the slot machines to the outdoors and you're free. Yeah. They have the slot machines arranged in weird, it's like a maze. They've got all these lights flashing, bells and whistles going, exciting table games, because they don't want you to leave with the money in your pocket, right?
Right.
When I say the casino strategy, and I don't mean to sound evil, but my goal is, in a perfect world, UFAT is on my email list. She's in my Facebook group. She's connected with me other places, social media, and so on. So if you don't happen to open the email that day, you may bump into it somewhere else, right? Or you hear me on a podcast later that day or whatever, and you're seeing me so often you close your eyes at night, you see Mark there because you've seen me all day with stuff. So a lot of people think, well, I couldn't possibly copy the email over to a blog, for example, because why would anyone subscribe to my list if they could just go to the blog? They will still subscribe to the list because they want the convenience of getting it into their inbox. But I recommend doing it there's SEO and a bunch of other advantages, but I recommend copying it over to your blog and also to social media.
That actually, guys, if you're hearing this strategy, is brilliant because it saves you so much time in content creation and it gives you enough time to do what Mark was saying. You look through your Facebook groups, you look through social media, you build a relationship with people, basically finding out what they're interested in, getting ideas and delivering value in email, in social, in content, in podcasts. It's really, really brilliant. The idea of repurposing is phenomenal because we're not drowning. There's no lack of information anywhere. There's lack of connection. And if you can connect with people more than just throw stuff at them, that will grow your business. So what have you found, Mark, that works with headlines? A lot of people kind of like stuck with their email headlines and I need a headline generator. And if I don't put the right headline, then it doesn't work. I love it.
Well, I mean, subject lines are important because if they don't open the email, they're not going to get to your offer or whatever you're talking about in that email. That being said, don't spend 3 hours banging your head against the wall trying to come up with a Shakespearean type subject line with it. I would say have some fun with your subject lines. We've all seen the internet marketing type subject lines that are just yawn. So I try to have some fun with it. Good example is on The last International Day of Peace, which was, I think that's in September, my email was why the International Day of Peace is a scam. Now, that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it pokes them in the eye, right? And I actually got a couple of emails back from some angry people in peace organizations that weren't very peaceful. So they were tearing the strip out of me. So there's an example of having fun with it, but then in the email, I expand on it. The whole point of that email was instead of spending time on world peace, which you're not going to be able to fix, I don't care what the motivational quotes say and stuff like that, work on your own self and personal development. You're going to have peace in your household. You and your spouse won't be fighting about money and all that stuff. And then you can donate to those organizations with all the money that you make and all that stuff. Another example was on Earth Day. The subject line was my evil plan to destroy Mother Earth. And that was a call to action for my print newsletter, because there's no digital copies. It's just a hard copy. And it was kind of, again, what I'm saying is open up. Don't be afraid to poke the bear a little bit, have some fun with it. One of my top opened emails ever had just 2 words in the subject line. Any guesses on if I was going to put a politician's name in there, which one would get the most opens with 2 words?
Yes, Trump.
Yeah.
And he used to be, if the first word was F, the F word.
Yes. So just for shits and giggles, I put Donald Trump as a subject line because it was an email talking about whether online entrepreneurs should talk about politics. So just for fun, I said I'm going to put this man's name in there. Now, if you Donald Trump is, you've never met anyone on the fence. It's like, well, I'm waiting to see how he makes out, and I haven't formed an opinion yet. He's either the devil, the spawn of Satan. He's going to cause World War III, or on the other side, he's making America great again, and he's great. And he's rescuing the country, but you never see anyone in the middle. So anyone who absolutely detests Trump is going to open that email just to see what I'm saying about it. Anyone who loves him and adores him is going to open it as well. Same thing that happened with Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton. Now, I did another email a few weeks back where the subject line was Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton walk into a bar. and then there's that email there, and that one got some really good opens. So that goes to a bigger issue, a thing that you can't be afraid of polarizing. Now, what would most entrepreneurs say? Oh, gee, I couldn't possibly put Donald Trump's name or Hillary Clinton's in a subject line because I would tick off half the country, right? So I'm going to stay away from that. And then they put out some boring subject line. Have some fun with it. So everything I do, I would rather be interesting, rile them up a bit than just the same old boring internet marketing stuff.
And you know what? That gets the conversation going. Do you ever optimize for? What do you optimize for? Is it replies, clicks, open rates? What are the metrics looking for in an email?
Well, the overall most important metric is dollars in the bank account. So Dan Kennedy had a great quote. I can't remember what it was, but he was talking about. I think it was, he had an acronym for clicks, saying something that idiots track or something. His point was it doesn't matter all these metrics, right? Now, obviously, if your open rate is crazy low, there could be something going on there, and you want to check it out. But I pay not a lot of attention to things like open rates and all that other stuff. When it comes to click-through rates, here's a little tip. What I found I get a higher click-through rate when I spell out the whole URL as opposed to saying click here and hyperlinking it. I've always found for me, I get more clicks by saying go to www.yefatshow.com or whatever, as opposed to saying click here with it. So.
That's cool. So how do we use email to build a relationship? Because a relationship is kind of like a back and forth conversation, and email is very much a one-sided broadcast, if you will. So how do you use that to actually build a relationship with your audience?
Well, if you're doing the things we've talked about so far today and you're consistently emailing every day, that's going to build a relationship. So you're going to start noticing more people are replying to your emails. That happened after about 30 days of doing daily emails. Before, I never got any replies, right? And then all of a sudden, it took about a month, but I started getting people would reply with their 2 cents on whatever email I sent out. One day, Aweber was down. The system was messed up. And I started getting these emails probably 15, 20 minutes after the email set to go out saying, Mark, what's going on? I didn't get your email today. Did you unsubscribe me? Or is this, someone said, is this a social experiment or something? Like, no. And I checked with AWeber, their system was down and went out a few hours later. But what I realized when I was getting those email back is even if you don't hear from people, there are people reading, watching you that you never knew. I say stalking you, but in a good way. But with mine, they're used to seeing my email the same time every day coming in their inbox. So that's building a relationship. Even if I don't always hear back from them or they haven't bought from me yet, it's still building a relationship.
It's very funny. One of my top clients came in because of watching me on Google Plus, and I was like, he never commented, never liked, never responded, never anything, right? And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I've been watching you for years. I'm like, really? Like, I had no idea you were even there.
Yeah. Should we have a moment of silence for Google Plus? You're wearing black today, so
I am.
I am not, but I was never big on Google Plus. So that goes back to what I said, focus on what you enjoy doing and what works for you. Google Plus, I never got into it, so I just never.
You and most of the world, and it's so interesting because us Googlers, ex-Google Plusers, ex-Plusers, when we were grieving, we were like, there's two layers to the grief, right? Right, we're grieving of what we lost, and the second layer is like nobody understands why we're even grieving. Everybody's like you, like I don't know.
Honestly, I thought it died a few years earlier. I was like, oh, Google Plus is dead. It's kind of like your Uncle Joe. He's like 96. You thought he died a few years ago, and you find out that he died today. So,
He's like, I missed all that time. But Google Plus was an amazing platform, and I think Google kind of shot themselves in the foot because, the Google graveyard, right? With all the apps and all the ideas that Google created, people fell in love with, and then they killed. And so now a lot of businesses and business owners, they're like, I can't rely on anything Google creates. I can't rely on their QR codes. I can't rely on, right? Like nothing.
Yeah, and that's why email is important. If you're putting all your eggs in one basket, like take, for example, Facebook. I love my Facebook group. Hey, guys, and everything. And I hope that Facebook groups are around forever. God only knows, depending who's elected in 2020, maybe they use Mark Zuckerberg as a scapegoat and they do something that screws up Facebook or whatever. Your email list, you actually own that list. And if you treat it right and you do these things like daily emails, you'll always have that list. So while I think it's important to use things like social media and stuff, your experience with Google Plus shows what can happen. Even though I know you monetized it, you got a lot from it, you did very well. I'm guessing there were a lot of people that spent a lot of time on that and were just starting to get going, and also it's dead. It's like,
it's businesses, right? Small businesses. That was the way to rank with Google Plus pages and stuff. There's so much that has been taken away, and that's why it's kind of like, don't build your home on rented properties. Like Mark is saying, email is the only thing that you own. Email and phone numbers, right? People usually don't change their phone numbers. So one of the hardest things is, at the beginning of online marketing, people knew, people were opting in much easier. Like they would see something and be like, yeah, okay, here's my email address, I'm going to get it.
Oh my God, a free report. I don't have to pay anything. I'm jumping into it. It's like me. The first time I ever went to Vegas, I was this rookie Canadian greenhorn from the Great White North. And the first time I was walking down the strip with my ex-wife, we had people approaching us with timeshare stuff. Like, hey, you want to see a presentation? You can win a timeshare, whatever. And we were like, oh my God, it doesn't cost anything? Sure, we learned pretty quickly what was going on there. So we went back the next year, and I'm kind of like walking by, like, piss off, don't talk to me, or whatever. So it takes some time,
Right, and so now we're at this point with email. Everybody knows, like, the minute I'm going to say, yes, I want that free report, I'm going to be bombarded with, like, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. So it's much harder to get an email address. How do you go about that?
Well, I mean, obviously you want to give them something of value. You don't want to give garbage. I'm not saying that has to be something that's, again, Shakespearean, that's the greatest lead magnet ever created, but it has to be something that helps them. One thing I'm very clear right in my first autoresponder email is, by the way, I email daily. It's not going to be garbage. It's stuff that's going to help you. If you're not cool with it, unsubscribe. So what I'm doing is I'm signaling that I'm not going to be slobbering all over you to keep you on my list. I hope you stay. But people don't, it's kind of like dating. You don't want to date a person that's hard up or desperate, right? Yeah. And same thing goes with doing business. I think prospects can sniff desperation on marketers or whatever, and that's why I do things to push them away, because I don't want to be like everyone else who's on their hands and knees begging and to get a dollar from them. So if you take that approach where you're not afraid of your list, you treat them like people, you send them stuff that helps them, but I think email subscribers can sniff fear out. Yeah.
Through cyberspace, they can smell it, which is amazing. So
and just one quick point, I'm on a person's email list who's a smart guy, successful entrepreneur, a good guy, but he did a promotion a few months back, and he sent out 2 emails on the final day of the promotion, which isn't crazy. I wasn't like ready to grab a pitchfork and march down to his state to take care of him. The second email was, oh my God, he's like, I'm really sorry for emailing you again. I don't usually do this. Please, my apologies, but I promise if you just give me a few minutes of your time, it's going to be worth it. But I'm really, really sorry. I don't mean to bug you. I know you get a lot of emails. It's just way too much. And I'm like, man, you don't have to do all that. So that's my 2 cents. I know I've touched on it a few times here, but that's one of the big themes today. Don't be afraid of your list.
Which is big. And it's the same thing that follows with social media, right? Don't be afraid of your social media followers. I used to have people coming in complaining about what I'm posting, and I'm like, dude, if you don't follow me, you'll never see it.
God, well, I ran into that recently with the Notre Dame fire. I got tired of seeing people complaining because rich people were donating, offering donations and pledging donations to rebuild the church, and you get these people whining, saying they shouldn't be spending money on that. There's kids starving, blah, blah, blah. So the post I put up basically said, for those people, shut your pie hole, go make a bunch of money, and then you can support causes that you want to support, but that's their money. Technically, they could burn it it's illegal to burn money and destroy it, I think, in most countries, but they could burn it in a bonfire if they want. They earned it. But a few people are like, well, geez, shut your pie hole is kind of rude or whatever, but I was getting ticked off seeing how many people, because it's this wealth bashing that's going on, and not just social media, all over society nowadays, is you bash and it goes to entrepreneurship too, bash any entrepreneurs who are making money, they're evil, Gordon Gekko types, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting how everybody wants to be rich, but at the same time they're kind of like bashing the rich because they're evil. But if I'm rich, then I'm fine.
They want to be rich, but they spend their day griping about the rich on social media, and then they wonder why they're not rich.
Exactly. Well said. So so I heard you say autoresponder. Do you also have an automated funnel that sends emails to newcomers, or do you have just like one autoresponder and then everything else is kind of like what you're doing daily? Yeah,
I used to years ago have the whole 7-day thing, and you hear some people saying you do a 2-week autoresponder sequence where, you got Russell Brunson's soap opera sequence where you tell your life story. This is what happened when I was a baby. This happened in kindergarten, and this happened in grade 5, and so on. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you what happened at my high school prom. I don't get into that. So people joining my list get the first autoresponder with the opt-in gift. Hey, thanks for joining the list, blah, blah, blah. Here's the gift. But then they go straight into my daily email sequence. So not saying that it can't work, but it would be a little disjointed if they were getting a soap opera sequence for 2 weeks, but then they're also getting a second daily email, which would kind of be a little bit jumbled. So for me, I wasn't feeling it. They get the one autoresponder, and then bang, they're on the daily email list just like everyone else.
And do you do anything kind of like analytical with your email? Do you score people? Do you kind of like decide, okay, these are my top readers, I should follow them more or something?
Like hot or not, or whatever that was.
Do you Tinder your email?
Yeah, swipe right, swipe left. I don't. I mean, what I do, which is kind of related to that, is everyone who responds to me, whether they be a good person or a troll, is content fodder. Right? So if someone sends a message to me, even the ones who are trolling me, that could go into an email the next day. Hey, I heard from Joe from Boise, Idaho yesterday, who said this. blah, blah, blah. And then I say, here's my point. And then so I'm using that hate that's thrown at me and the trolling stuff, and I'm using it for more content. So I wish I probably got more of those. I'll have to put more emails with Donald Trump's name in the subject line to get more of them. But I think the worst thing with email, same goes with social media, is just boring. Richard Nixon had a quote once where he said, the only thing worse than being wrong is being boring, or something like that. And I think it's true now. Is people are it's too noisy in their inboxes on social media and stuff, and they will appreciate if you take some chances and you put out some strong opinions, even if they don't agree with all of them. I don't expect people to agree with me all the time. If they did, I'm probably not pushing the limits enough there with it. In a perfect world, half the people will love you and not be lukewarm, and the other half will hate you, right? And it'll be that polarity.
Gary Vee style, right?
Yeah.
Very much Gary Vee. So your method, which I really like, is repurposing your content. You're writing daily emails, and then you're taking your daily emails and repurposing them as social posts, as blog posts, and anything else, because your podcast is really interviewing people, right? There's no really recycling in the podcast.
Well, my show goes live every Monday morning, so usually Mondays will be about that day's episode. So that's where a podcast comes in handy, is it gives you content for 4 or 5 days a month, right? If it's every Monday with it. So I do that on Monday. I'll be like, hey, I had Yifat Cohen on the show today. We talked about it. I'll give a little teaser. Go check it out. So when I say have a call to action every email, it doesn't always mean a sale. A call to action could be driving people to an interview, could be driving them to a Facebook Live or something like that. But please put a link in every single email. Don't be afraid. There's been one day that I didn't have a call to action since I started daily emails, and that was a day that one of my favorite baseball players died in a plane crash, not far from where you're at the moment. It was off the coast of Florida. And I sent an email out, Roy Halladay, who's one of the Blue Jays stars, right after retirement, shortly after, died in a plane crash. And I shared some of the life lessons and things like that in the email. I didn't feel right then saying, by the way, I've got a sale today on my program. Go check it out. Use a promo code Roy or something. That would be not good, right? So that one I didn't put a call to action, but that's the only one that I can recall where I didn't have a call to action since I've started daily emails.
And so when you started daily email, let's talk a little bit about the system that you're using. You have a program where you're actually teaching people how to stop being afraid of their list and start using daily emails to generate results. And one of the things that you said was like the biggest shift is the mindset shift. So tell me a little bit about what's going on in the program. Is it starting with the mind shift where don't be afraid of your list, and then here's how to write, and here are the subject lines? How's that go?
Yeah. So while the program has things like templates and stuff like that will help you write the emails, it starts with like you said, the mindset stuff, the foundational things, because you could have the best templates in the world. If you're not on board with daily emails, you're going to hold back. You're going to find some excuses. That being said, it's not too... Everyone's like, how do you write the perfect email? They want this thing that you can plug stuff in. I know it sounds cliche. I say just be yourself. So while there are some templates and different things there about structure, I don't want to say, here you go, copy and paste and just plug in your name or your link here. That's not going to work. It has to be in your own language. So a good example, when we were promoting this interview, you gave me some images and things like that, but I didn't say, hey, Yifat, can you send me over copy, like boilerplate copy that I could copy and paste? Because my list could tell that wasn't coming from me. I want to write it in my own words, and that's what you should do as well. So the program does focus on the mindset. It focuses on how to write the emails, which is important, how to sell in the emails, how to transition to sale, and how to monetize them, because you want to monetize them if you're spending the time doing daily, and finally growing your list, because you want to obviously keep growing your list and going in the right direction. So it focuses on all those things dropped at once. It's not dripped over any number of weeks. You get all 4 modules right away.
So how do you integrate images and videos and other media in the email, or is it mostly text, kind of like you're sending something to a friend?
Yeah, my emails are plain Jane, god awful, ugly, which is the way I want it. So that's an important point you mentioned. A lot of people, which I'm not a fan of, they try to make their emails look like a website almost. They've got the pretty banner, they've got all these social media share buttons.
You don't like my emails, Mark.
Well, I can't recall. I wasn't referring to you, but if you do it that way, no, I would change it if I were you. I like your writing. I don't like your design if that's how you're doing it. But the reason why is people sort of tune out, right? Or if they see or the name, if the name's slotted in and it says hi Mike, hi Mary, or whatever, I think most people nowadays know that that's just filled in. It's not, you're not personally emailing 1,000 or 10,000 people individually. I like having it just jumps right into the text. I don't like having the banner where people have to scroll down to start reading. I don't like having social media shares. You shouldn't be giving them 4, 5, 10 different options. I like having one call to action per email. So there's a very successful coach I know who does well, but one thing that I would change with his is every email that he has like 4 or 5 calls to action. He says, hey, book a call with my team here. Or if you want to check out this workshop, go here. Check out my Facebook group, go here. Read my book, go here. And it's just too much, right? I like having just one place I'm sending them.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. There was another theory where someone was saying if you want to be personal with people and really build a relationship, you send an email that you would send to a friend. And a friend will not get the logo, will not get the banners, will not get all that other stuff. They'll just get long links, like you were saying, because you'll copy and paste the link and not going to put click here to see that. The last thing, I know you have a hard stop, so the last question I'm going to have for you is, how do you feel about people who are trying to fake authenticity? And what I mean by that is kind of like the email I got from Grant Cardone that said, send from my iPhone, and on the bottom it says unsubscribe.
Or they'll say RE regarding that thing we were talking about yesterday. It's like, oh, who is this? No, I mean, we could do a whole talk about that. I hate these people who are trying to be phony. So the example I use is if they never curse in their personal life, but all of a sudden they're to be badass in their emails, it's F-bombs everywhere and, trying to be real tough like that. Or vice versa. If they curse like a sailor in their personal life, but then their emails, they sound like Reverend Lovejoy's wife in The Simpsons, there's a disconnect. So I just say write like you talk. I've had people who are on my list who know me in real life. They're like, your emails sound like you, Mark. I'm like, well, who else should they sound like? So for me, I've got a corny sense of humor. I'll say lame dad jokes, puns. I'm sure people roll their eyes, but that's me, right? If I tried to be like Grant Cardone, or if I was like Gary Vaynerchuk and I was dropping all these F-bombs, my language can be salty at times, don't get me wrong, but not F this and F that usually. That's more for offline if I stub my toe or if I'm out for drinks with friends.
And you're Canadian. I mean, like how Gary V can you get, right? You're just too good on the inside. Yeah,
so I just say just be yourself. People overthink it. They're like trying to sketch out how to be authentic, and they're paying people. Here's $5,000. Show me how to be authentic. If anyone wants to pay me $5,000, I'll show you how to be authentic. It'll be the quickest coaching session in the world. Be yourself. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Have a great day. So thank you, Mark. Again, guys, if you are thinking of starting daily emails, and Mark has given so much value here, just from this show alone, you can start your daily emails. You know exactly how to write them, you know what to write, you know how to be entertaining and authentic, and how to generate the sales. But I know that a lot of people, sometimes information is not enough. You need someone to hold your hand. And if that person is Mark, then all you have to do is write to the right of the video. There's a very beautiful banner that will take you to the daily email system. You can hop on there, grab your course. How long is it? It's like 3 weeks? 2 weeks?
Sorry, cut out for a second. You said how long is the program?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 4 modules. The modules aren't going to take you 50 hours each. You can finish each module in a few. I would say that this program, though, is really going to take about a month for everything to soak in and to get rolling. So if you have patience, you're willing to give it a month of implementing what I teach, you'll be surprised at the results. If you expect to get $1 million tomorrow by doing 5% of the program, forget it. Don't buy it. Save your money. buy a bunch of Starbucks or something else with it. I don't know.
A bunch of coffee. So in 30 days, guys, you could be starting to monetize your emails. All you have to do, click that link right there. Grab the course. If you have any questions or anything like that, Marc has a free group in Facebook. It's called the Coaching Jungle, and you can hop on in there and engage with Marc. And any questions, any comments, anything else, you know where to find us. I'm.thatgeek.com. This is the show for you. Marc, you can find them on in Facebook and daily emails. And then is there another website where they can find you?
The main hub's naturalborncoaches.com. That's where you can also opt into my list to see it in action. Spoiler alert, you will be getting daily emails, as you know.
Which is a fantastic way to model someone and something that actually works. So thank you, Marc, so much. Enjoy your coaching call that you have coming up right away. And guys, have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you on the next show.